A live look at Temple Square this evening as tributes roll in for Russell M. Nelson.
17th president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Nelson was 101 years old. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mika Miyashima.
And I'm Brian Malahy at Temple Square. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints confirmed that Nelson passed away late Saturday night. The internet was full of people expressing their sorrow and their condolences, and we have team coverage for you this evening. Russell M. Nelson became the church president in January of 2018, and during his tenure as the head of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, he announced temples, nearly 200 of them around the world. Reaction today, including from those who recognized and were touched by his impact as a world-renowned heart surgeon. Brian Will has that story for us this evening. Brian.
Brian, we've been on Temple Square all day, walking around, talking to people, and the stories are quite moving and quite personal about this man.
Today, we remember the life of President Russell Marion Nelson.
When I was 5 years old, in 1973, Russell Nelson operated on my heart and saved my life. So, for me, it's very personal.
Dan Farr, the producer of FanX, credits Dr. Russell M. Nelson with saving his life. For him, the news of his passing is very personal after meeting him many times throughout his life.
He actually mentioned the date and told me details about the surgery, and it was amazing the mind that he had.
And I remember just looking right into his eyes, and you just saw this sparkle that in his eyes that just captivated you.
Dale Van Wagner met Nelson as a young missionary and reflected on the changes he made to the church over the years.
I think he opened up the church and changed a lot of the culture and attitudes that we were having, that just love your fellow man, care about them. Everything else will take care of itself.
He made such an influence on everybody's life that you can't put it into words.
For church members like Sean Farnworth, President Nelson was a friend to everybody. When he heard the news, he knew he had to make it to music and the spoken word on Sunday morning.
He had a legacy of love and peace. He wanted us to all love one another and have peace with one another and not choose sides.
A beloved physician, president, and prophet of the church that has left a lasting touch on so many.
The church will move forward, but his contribution and experience will be greatly missed.
Nelson is the first president of the church that made it to the century mark, and you can tell just from that he'll be leaving a lasting legacy here. Reporting live on Temple Square, Brian Will, KUTV 2 News.
Okay, Brian, and today at the broadcast of music and the spoken word, the host noted that the broadcast has been going for nearly a century, and President Nelson remembered some of those very early broadcasts.
President Nelson watched this broadcast each Sunday and once mentioned that he recalled the very first broadcast that aired in July of 1929. He was 5 years old at the time. In a way, he has been here with us throughout this broadcast's entire journey. And so today, on behalf of his friends of the Tabernacle Choir and Orchestra at Temple Square, we say, farewell, dear friend.
And after that tribute, the choir performed "May God Be With You Until We Meet Again." The passing of President Nelson sets off a series of events now, a funeral and new leadership for the church. Natalie Wattis continues our team coverage for us from the Joseph Smith Memorial Building. Natalie.
Brian, I spoke with the Simmons Chair of Mormon Studies at the University of Utah, who said the announcement of the funeral and the next president may happen faster than usual. What happens now?
So at the death of a living prophet, the first presidency, which is the highest governing body in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is dissolved. And then the most senior apostle in the quorum of 12 apostles is the person next in line to become the new president of the faith.
Paul Reeve, the Simmons Chair of Mormon Studies at the University of Utah, says then that president chooses 2 counselors from the quorum of 12 apostles to reconstitute the first presidency. So who, in your view, will be the next president?
A man by the name of Dallin H. Oaks is now the most senior apostle, meaning the person ordained first amongst the 12 apostles. So he has been in the apostleship the longest.
The other part of the secession process, Reeves says, is a new apostle will be called to fill the vacancies left by the death of President Nelson and the movement of a new person to the presidency.
They haven't announced a funeral, but people are sort of expecting it might be this week, and then President Oaks sustained by the general membership of the faith, the worldwide faith, at this coming general conference, and then a new apostle announced. That would be a rapid timeline, but nonetheless, because general conference is just 5 days away, most people watching anticipate the reorganization taking place at the general conference.
Now, Reeves says Dallin H. Oaks is 93 years old, the same age President Nelson was when he assumed the presidency. Live at Temple Square, Natalie Wattis, KUTV 2 News.
Okay, Natalie, appreciate it. So a day of sorrow at the passing of President Nelson, also a day of appreciation. Live at Temple Square, Brian Malahi, KUTV 2 News. Mika, back to you.
Thanks so much, Brian. And let's take a little bit of a deeper look at the structure of church leadership. The church is led by the president and his 2 counselors in the first presidency. Serving under the direction of the first presidency is the quorum of the 12 apostles. The quorum of the 12 apostles is the group tasked with filling the vacancy left by Nelson's passing. And tributes have been pouring in from across the state for President Nelson. Governor Spencer Cox taking to X, posting a photo of himself meeting with Nelson, calling him, quote, a gentle leader and a voice for peacemaking. And Utah Senator Mike Lee also issuing a statement saying, quote, to the day he died, he remained a healer of hearts and of souls. Senator Lee also remembering how President Nelson performed open heart surgery on both of his maternal grandparents. And Senator John Curtis says he's grateful for Nelson's insight and inspiration, adding, as we mourn his passing, we also celebrate a life that lifted countless people and left an enduring legacy of hope and strength. And an example of how Nelson's life crossed secular boundaries, the Catholic Diocese of Salt Lake sharing their condolences, reflecting on how they work with Nelson to help the poor in Utah, calling Nelson, quote, a steady leader to truly minister for the good and to see the dignity in others. And you can also find more condolences and memories shared by Utah's leaders and our KUTV YouTube channel, a detailed look at President Nelson's life and service.